Hey everybody, this is Jim Kurtz, and welcome to Innovations in Agriculture, where we talk about new things that are coming up for agriculture and ways that you can improve the operation of farming. And today I met with a really nice gentleman. We'll probably have him on a future episode here, where he's describing a unique kind of trade mechanism that can actually save a lot of water. And if you think about it, watering is one of those things that a lot of times farmers just they have their own technology, but think about how much water is being used in agriculture and how much we're actually wasting in a lot of ways. I mean, commercial agriculture utilizes probably 5 to 6 times more, maybe even 10 times more water than human consumption. So if you're worried about having enough drinking water, I think we should really worry about how do we have enough water to grow the plants and the fruits and vegetables that we all need and we all want to eat, because that really is an important part. I mean, I'm talking to farmers that are using millions or even tens of millions of gallons of water per day, per year, excuse me. And I've even run across a few farmers that are using billions of, or billions with a B, of gallons of water per year. So imagine, if you're using, let's say you're using half a gallon of water a day, that's 160 gallons that you might be drinking over the course of a year, and these farmers are using billions of gallons a year. So, um, it's food for thought. It's probably, and I'm talking about just one farm. I mean, probably, maybe even hundreds of billions or trillions of gallons of water is being used in agriculture every year. And of course, what the plants don't use, it goes into the groundwater, then it seeps back into the aquifers and the oceans and that kind of stuff. And it's part of a water cycle. So it's not like the water is just disappearing. But for farmers, you guys got to look at like how efficient is your operation in terms of its utilization of water. And it's easy to kind of consider, oh well, we've got plenty of water in the aquifer, we got plenty of water here and there. But how much water are you using, and how important is that? How much are you spending in fuel to run those pumps? And so sometimes you might not care about the water because you're pumping it out of the ground. You may not worry about how much water you're using, but maybe you should consider how much water am I using and how much is that costing me in terms of fuel. For example, diesel fuel is not cheap, but electricity is not cheap. And so, these are important things to consider. And so, if you're pumping, 7 days a week, 24/7 in some cases in the summertime, and you're pumping big pivots and watering corn and wheat and that kind of stuff, you might want to ask yourself, well, how much water am I actually using? How much is this really costing me in terms of fuel and pumping and that kind of stuff? So that's something to really consider here. I got my kids in the background here from school, but an important thing to consider. So, question I have for you guys is, how much water are you guys using? So, how much are you guys using here in terms of your water? Um, and how would you like to save that? If you're in a place like California or the West Coast or other areas where there's drought situations, you may really want to consider how you can get the plants more efficient at utilizing water and resources available to it. Sometimes it's not always about increasing the amount of yield that you're producing every year, but sometimes you really want to know if there's ways to save on input costs, and water is an input. Of course, it's one of the most volume intensive inputs, and it's also an input that really requires a lot of consideration here. So I'm going to show you something here because I think it's important to really look at this. And let me share the screen here with you. And so here in the slide, I just want to show you, this is one part of our presentation. We show farmers typically. But two things that our system really does to improve sustainability in terms of farming is improving soil health on one hand, and the other hand is improving water optimization, optimizing the water usage. And I want to show you a few examples of this, of how we're helping farmers with this. So, for example, sorry, let me go here. Probably easier to do this as a slideshow here. See if I can do that. And I'm actually going to stop my share. Sorry, one second, guys. Technical difficulties. Okay. Hold on a second here. Let me switch this over and share that screen. All right. So let's take a look here at some examples of soil health and how we're improving soil health. Because again, the fertility of your soil is, of course, when you're adding fertilizer, that's what you're doing. You're adding fertility, right? But if you don't want to use as much fertilizer or you're worried about sustainability in terms of using chemical fertilizers, you have to look at what is the overall net effect of this. And some of the net effects that we're seeing is microbial improvements or microbial reduction, where you're actually killing off microbes in the soil that are already doing a lot of the work we want to do, right? The microbes are in nature's way of converting atmospheric nitrogen to usable nitrogen. So that's one thing that you really should be looking at is how to reduce fertilizer. Maybe you're looking at how do we boost microbial activity so that they're able to convert a lot of those raw materials to usable forms that the plants can use. And that will allow you to reduce the amount of fertilizer you're using to get the same net crop. Or if you're looking to increase yield, that will improve your overall yield. Another area that's not given a lot of attention, at least from the farmers that I talk to, is soil conductivity. Now, soil conductivity is a measurement of we call it cat ions, or how many positively charged ions are in the soil. And when you talk about calcium and sodium and magnesium and other metals or salts, you're looking at things that are going to drive the pH up and increase soil conductivity. And when the soil is too high in soil conductivity, it's going to start burning the plants, and the plants are not going to be able to grow or yield nearly as much. This particular example is a case study that we did where we showed how we reduced the soil conductivity in the soil from a high range of 2.3 in solution down to a standard range of 1.7. So that's about a 30% reduction in soil conductivity. And that means that the plants are going to be able to be much more efficient at utilizing the resources and nutrients available to it. Additionally, in this particular soil, as we see here in the example, we reduced the overall salt content or sodium content from 1.1, which was again a high range, down to zero point 0.6 in the soil, which was considered a standard range. Now, in addition to soil conductivity and microbial health and overall health of the soil, what we're seeing is an improvement in the water penetration into the soil and the water retention in the soil. This is a key component because if you have a sandy soil, the water is going to tend to leach out through the soil and you're not going to be able to retain that water. So you're going to have to keep watering. Now, in very hard or compact soils, you have the opposite problem where the water just sits on the top of the soil and it doesn't seep into the soil very easily. It takes a long time to seep into the soil. And a lot of that water is going to either evaporate back out into the atmosphere um, or it's going to, leach out of the soil or sometimes get washed away. So what happens when you have too much water on the surface of the soil? Well, what it means is the plants are not going to develop a good, strong root structure because they're not going to have to dig down to find water. The water is going to be at a very shallow level. And that can create problems where trees and plants and other stuff are not digging into the soil and they can get blown away by wind and other factors. In this particular example, we had an almond grove who was having a problem with soil compaction. And as a result, he had to water for 12 or 13 hours each irrigation cycle just to get enough water there that it would eventually seep down into the soil. But after watering with Kiminasi plant booster for 12 weeks, he noticed that the compaction in the soil was reduced. And so the water was able to penetrate down into the ground to a much deeper depth in a shorter period of time. And that allowed him to get the trees the water they needed without having to water for as long. And so he saved about 66% of the overall water that he used versus the previous year, just because of that factor, just because the factor that the microbes in the soil are more active, the compaction in the soil was reduced, and he was able to uh, really cut his irrigation time down by quite a bit. So all of you California almond growers should take heed to that because a lot of you guys are complaining about water shortages and the high cost of water when you're having to get more water. Well, this technology will help you reduce the amount of water usage because it's going to improve the soil characteristics that's going to allow you to utilize less water. This next example is a walnut grower who also used 46% less water on his farm. And you see the difference just looking at the picture here, where the picture on the left shows the salt damaged trees in the beginning and what they look like. And after 12 weeks of watering with Kiminasi, how they all came back to life. They all regained their canopy and regained their health. And as a result, also, they're getting 30% additional production on their farm than they did the previous year. So just to give you a quick summary of what this is all about, our technology is improving soil health. It's improving microbial activity of the soil. It's reducing water usage, and overall, we're seeing a much, much better, of course, growth rate and production. So sometimes it's not always about increasing production. In fact, I talked to 3 or 4 strawberry growers um, You get my screen back here. I talked to 3 or 4 strawberry growers just yesterday, and they said, "Look, we don't want more yield. We get more strawberries in the peak of our season. That just means we're going to have to pay our workers more to pick them all, and we're not going to get the money back." So sometimes it's, believe it or not, guys, farmers are actually not picking or not harvesting a lot of times because it costs them more money to harvest in some cases than they're going to get if the market's down or if the quality's bad or if other factors are not there. So what we're helping farmers to do is improve quality. In addition, we're improving sustainability and overall soil health, utilizing less water and nutrients, and being more profitable. Because sometimes it's not about just increasing your production by 20, 30, 40, 50%. Sometimes other factors can play a much bigger role in terms of your overall profitability. And because we're really enhancing the soil health and the plant health, you're going to see a much more sustainable model using Human Oxy Plant Booster than you are trying to just continue to add chemicals and water to what you're already doing. So stop fighting the problem, start looking at the actual solution to the problem. And Kiminasi Plant Booster is a key component to that. So I offer you guys that opportunity, and stay tuned for future episodes here on the innovations in agriculture. I'm going to take a look here. I don't see any other comments, but we're going to make this a little bit short here today because we've had a long week, and I'm sure we all want to get home to our families. But keep that in mind when you're looking at ways to improve your farm for the next year. Start looking at solutions that are going to give you long-term benefits and not just a short-term gain of a good crop next year. Of course, we want that good crop next year, but you really want to invest in technologies and tools and inputs that are going to improve your overall longevity and long-term benefit. And the Kiminasi Plant Booster is helping farmers with sustainable solutions that is improving quality and quantity of yields while improving soil health and nutrient utilization as well. If you want more information about it, you can go to our website, which is here. You can also give us a call here directly at 727-324-6750. My name is Jim Kurtz. I look forward to talking with you so you can become part of the future farming today. Have a great day, guys.